Hi everyone, this is Paulo with Prática High-Speed Ovens company. In today's video, we're going to talk about the oven thermocouple, component responsible by monitoring the temperature of the unit during the cook cycle. All Prática ovens use the same technology of thermocouples. So I have here in my hand one example of these thermocouples that we use, which is a Type J sensor that consists in a thermocouple with two cables connected to the electronic board, and they have a positive pole and a negative pole. In this case, black is positive, white is negative. That's the standard that Prática is using nowadays. But always take a look at the label on the sensor and also on the identification on the electronic board. Do never invert these sensors and just make sure you are positioning right in accordance with the electrical diagram that every single oven has inside of it. Before any technical test on the oven, we have first of all to understand what is going on the oven display. The oven will show us a few signals that is going to be able to tell us what is going on, or at least give us a good idea of it. First of all, on the main menu of the oven, you're going to see the temperature on the chamber. In this case, we have a Feed Express, equipment that has only one thermocouple. But if it was, for example, a Copa Express, a Rocket, or an STI, we would have two thermocouples monitoring the temperature. Alright, here, if we have a huge temperature, like 1000 Fahrenheit, which is not possible by the oven, or a negative temperature, which is not possible as well, we already know there is something technically wrong. Other than that, sometimes we're facing intermittent issues, and there is a way for us to identify them as soon as the oven has a fail log. And how can we access that? First of all, let's see the lecture of the sensor and then identify its issues. So, on settings, we go to 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then we have here current temperature. We'll click over here, and on this screen, we can stay for a few seconds monitoring the temperature just to see if we're going to have a variation or not. By having an expressive variation, we already know that we're supposed to make a few tests to understand if the issue is either on the sensor or on the electronic board. The second way for us to check is going back to the main menu, accessing settings once again, and now we're going to use the technical password. That's a special password that normally we don't inform customers about it because we just have really technical stuff inside of it. We confirm, and then we come to usage logs. We click in usage logs, and then we have fail logs. On fail logs, we will have here the history of all of the issues that this oven may appear. Just keep in mind that equip on and off is just the cycle counter of the oven being shut on and shut it off. What really matters for us is checking this information right here. It's camera sensor. And right on top we have camera sensor OK. Whenever we have an OK after the issue, it means that the issue was solved already. So, in the case of an intermittent issue, the equipment will lose the communication and will reestablish it back after a few seconds, so then we may see a sequence of that. If we have a sequence of issues and then corrections, means that we're probably having or an intermittent issue with the component or a loose connection. So for that, we have to test the electronic board and the sensor to see where is the issue right now. The thermocouple can be tested in two ways. First way is directly on the oven, and the second way is a bench test. So for us to understand how to test it, we have to understand how does it work. So we have two cables on a thermocouple, and these two cables are connected in the end of this thermocouple over here. So by the logic, we understand that we have continuity between these two terminals over here. So the first test, we're going to get our multimeter, put on continuity scale, we touch the probes just to make sure it is working fine. So one of the probes we're going to touch in one cable, another probe on another cable. If you have continuity when testing it, means that the sensor has passed the first test. The second test you're gonna keep one of the probes on a cable, and the second probe you're gonna touch on the structure of the sensor. If the sensor is installed on the oven already, you can use any part of the stainless steel area to test it. So you can test it over here, over here, over here. If you don't have any continuity, you're good, and then you can go to the second test. Get the other cable, touch it to the probe, and then repeat the same test. No continuity. With these 3 tests that we have made, we understand that the sensor is working fine, but we still may be facing an issue on the oven if you're talking about a sensor installed over there. So how can we ensure that the sensor is having accuracy on its measurement? For testing the sensor on the oven, first of all, we will start with these tests here, so then we're going to make sure that the sensor is working fine. And after that, we have to test if the electronic board is correctly recognizing the sensor. So for that, we're going to remove the 2 cables of the sensor from the electronic board, and we're going to replace it for a bypass. This bypass, or jumper, as you may want to call, you're going to put the 2 cables on a place where you had the 2 thermocouple cable. By doing it, the oven has to recognize room temperature. So if your kitchen has, for example, a temperature around 85 degrees, that's what you should probably see when you put this bypass over there on the electronic board. Let's see on the practice. Right in the top of the unit, you're going to remove the 5 Phillips screws from the sides, removing the top panel where you're going to have access to the electronic board over here. In this case, we are using the Fit Express as an example. So the thermocouple connector, we're going to be right here. All right? So this thermocouple is sending the electronic board an information of temperature that we can see right here on the panel. So right now, we have 124 Fahrenheit. If, for example, we've got a loose connection, then I'm going to make a simulation right now. The electronic board will lose the communication, and in a few seconds, I will see an error on the screen. So we already have an LED bar in red, and then chamber sensor error. By connecting it back, the temperature will stabilize automatically. In this case, if I want to double check if the thermocouple is working and if the electronic board is recognizing the information, I'll pass through 2 steps. First step is testing the sensor, as we did previously, and the second step, I'll test directly on the electronic board, making a jumper. So, first of all, I'll turn the unit off. With the unit off, I will remove the 2 cables, and I will replace these 2 cables by this jumper over here. So, with the oven turned off, I already removed these 2 cables here and put in the jumper. Then I turn the oven on again, and now we can check here on a display that we have room temperature. In this case, 86 Fahrenheit. We should not see any variation on that, not more than 1 or 2 degrees. Because if you still have any variation or an error message, means that the electronic board has failed and it has to be replaced. But before you're doing that, just make sure right here on the connector, you remove the connector and you clean it before, so then there is no miscommunication on that. Once you make sure that the electronic board is working fine, and now you have already a new sensor that you can connect on the electronic board, we can remove the jumper and connect the sensors. Just make sure to respect the polarity. So, as I mentioned previously, black cable is positive, white cable negative. You're going to see the identification on the electronic board as well, right on the left corner. So, the first input right here is going to be positive, second one negative. If it's a Rocket Express or a Copa Express where you have 2 thermocouples, we just repeat the logic. Positive, negative, positive, negative. Once we have the thermocouples connected back, we can take a look on the display and see if we have the temperature being monitored. If the temperature is floating in big variations, like from 200, then it goes to 90 degrees, then it goes back to 400, we're having a really big variation, so that means that the sensor is not good. But in this case, it is all good. We're all set here. Now we already know how to identify an issue on a sensor and also on an electronic board, always respecting the polarity of the cables. Thanks for watching this video, and if you still have technical questions, please contact us in one of the informations that you're seeing in the bottom of this video.